everybody, we're going to finish turn that Branchy Birch Bowl that I rough turned and put in the kiln a couple of months ago. It's ready to go and it warped all kind of wonky. I rough turned all these bowls with tenons, and I had intended to finish turn it using a tenon, but I'm going to do something a little different this time. I'm going to use a glue block. In fact, most of what I'm going to do in this video is all coming from Lyle Jamison's channel, and if you don't know about him or haven't subscribed, you should definitely check him out. He's got all kinds of amazing information, like this little tip with the laser to help line up wings, or in this case, I'm just trying to make sure that the high edges are pretty much in line, because you're never going to get it to sit quite right when it's warped and just using a friction jam chuck. It may not be an ideal situation changing from a tenon plan to a glue block plan kind of midstream, but I think that it's going to be okay. So here I'm just going to start preparing the area for the glue block. I'm going to try a glue block like Lyle Jamison does. I finished turned this birch bowl, which had kind of a lot of branchy bits and figure in it, and it really wobbled and was giving me a lot of vibration. So I was going to see if using a glue block will eliminate some of the vibration from the chuck. Anyway, it's an experiment. So in theory, what I have going here is my glue block is concave and my bottom bit is also a little bit concave. So then the edges of these should sit good like that. Hopefully it's not too concave, I don't know. We'll see. So, thick CA glue. Alignment method, or at least to get it close. I put a link to Lyle's video on making the glue block. The alignment method here is using a piece of wire through a hole drilled in the center of the glue block and lining it up with the point from the tail center. He goes into much more detail about how to do that, but that's the gist of it. It's just about impossible to find a metal coat hanger these days, so I'm just using one of those flags that you use to mark things in your yard. It's pretty stiff, it's straight, and the diameter is small enough that it fit right into the hole from the tail center. I marked the depth of the screws there with just a line, and I'm taking out some of that material to give me a little better clearance. I made this glue block a little while ago, and it was for a different piece that I didn't end up using it on. So it's not quite sized right, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm just going to kind of slip in and out of real time occasionally throughout this video, because listening to this sped up 600%, it doesn't really give you any real idea as to how much vibration was present and how tough these cuts really were. This piece fought me every step of the way, I swear, and I think I used every tool that I own on it. I ended up doing a lot of scraping on the outside, and on the inside too, actually. But you can see just how out of round this is. I have kind of a long way to go to get it trued. So between the fact that it's just really out of balance because it warped so funny, and there are a lot of changes in grain because of the branches, and there are some bark inclusions so you don't have the same density, this really just made for some tough sledding. Yeah, I know I'm cutting backwards here, but y'all know that pull cut and I, we are just not friends. Maybe because the grain is so kind of all over the place, it didn't give me any issues. I didn't have any tear out. It actually made for quite a nice smooth cut. And I didn't get a catch, so, you know, that's always a bonus. I had a pretty big chunk come out of the rim, and it was already vibrating so badly that I decided I should try to fill that. I just used dried, used coffee grounds, and I mixed a tiny little bit of glitter in with it just for a little bling, and put that in there and soaked it with the thin CA glue, and that does a pretty good job filling voids on the cheap. I've pretty much eliminated my Nova G3 chuck with the spindle adapter on this machine. I think that the spindle adapter just adds way too much play in it. My Supernova 2, I'm pretty happy with that one, but I decided to try the glue block method. I know that Lyle Jamison uses this with the CA glue, and Jim Sprague over at Sprague Woodturning, he uses glue blocks exclusively, and he uses hot melt glue. So I'll put a link to his channel up there too. Those are a couple of good options if you don't have a chuck, or if you just want to try the faceplate method. The inside is equally as out of round. I was afraid for a little while that I wasn't going to have enough material to actually get the inside to be round. And it just did not want to cut. You know, I'm using Thompson tools sharpened with the Wolverine system on a 180 grit CBN wheel, nice sharp tools, and I just got powder. The whole thing was basically like trying to cut into end grain. I had a little bit of luck with a negative rake scraper. I put a burr on that with my 600 grit CBN wheel. This is my 1/2 inch gouge with the 40/40 grind on it, and I was able to get that to cut a little bit. Now I'm trying really hard to do the thing where you get your farthest out edge where you want it nice and smooth, and then you don't go back and touch it. But also, y'all know I'm not really good at doing that. But in my defense, I still don't have it to the final thickness. This is a Carbide shear scraper. It has a cupped Carbide insert, and I was getting a little better results with this. Once I got most of the meat taken out, I could come behind it with this, and I actually was managing to get some wood coming off of it, so I did a lot of cleanup with this tool. I tried all the things. I tried different tools, I tried different speeds, I tried different tools at different speeds. I didn't ever really get something that I thought was working well, but I guess that's the nature of the beast when you're working with highly figured wood. Damn those lumpy spots along the bottom. I finally got my dust collection hood situation straightened out. I put up a short video maybe a week or so ago showing how I did that if you're interested. And then the dust collector that I have hooked up to this lathe system just puked. So I have another one on order, but it's going to be a little while before it gets here. I cut out almost all of the sanding for you guys because I'm not proud. I started sanding at 60 grit, and it took a long time to get it to where I was happy with it. Once I was finished sanding, I went over it with denatured alcohol to clean up the surface. And then this is a 3-pound cut of shellac, mostly because I'm just about out of my 1-pound cut and I need to mix up some more. I let that dry and then I cut that back with a gray Scotch-Brite pad. I don't always use the same top coat for my pieces, but I'm really pleased with the results that I'm getting from using the Axe abrasive paste followed by Brad's abrasive sanding paste. Did y'all notice I'm sporting my Woodturner's Funnel Club t-shirt? I haven't made a funnel in a while though. For the top coat on this piece, I decided to use Brad's tongue wax. So I put on a pretty liberal coat and then I let it sit and soak in for a couple of hours, I think. And then I came back and buffed it off. Ooh, okay, it was worth it. And now for the scary part. I have to remember that this is only held onto the glue block by the CA glue that is just around the edges, so I don't want to go in very far with my parting tool. I probably chickened out a little too early, but I decided I would rather be safe than sorry, and I just finished cutting it off with the saw. I really didn't want this to go flying across the room. I cleaned up the glue block and reshaped it. It's still concave, but it's a little bit more pronounced so that the inside of the bowl is going to sit just along those edges. That just makes sure that if you have a hump anywhere that it's not going to ride against that, it's going to sit flat. And look at how nicely the bottom is cutting. Why did it not do that the whole time I was trying to make it into a bowl? I got in as close as I thought I could with the bowl gouge, and then I got my spear point scraper and used that to finish tidying it up and to just sort of whittle away a little bit at that nub. Make sure it's a little bit concave so that it sits flat. And we're all done. This piece was definitely a challenge. It had some wild grain and some bark inclusions and some just weird bits, but I'm really happy with how it came out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and leave me a comment. I love to hear from you guys. Until next time, y'all be safe out there. Look at that fluffy unicorn. It's so fluffy, I'm gonna die. It's so fluffy!